What if the challenges you face in relationships today could be traced back to patterns set in childhood? In adult children of emotionally immature parents, How to Heal from Distant, Rejecting, or Self-Involved Parents, Dr. Lindsay C. Gibson explores the profound impact of growing up with emotionally unavailable caregivers. This is the story of how I began to understand those patterns, break free from their grip, and embark on a journey of healing and self-discovery. Dr. Gibson begins by defining emotional immaturity, explaining how it manifests in parents and affects their children. Emotionally immature parents often prioritize their own needs, avoid vulnerability, and struggle to empathize with their children. As a result, they fail to provide the emotional support and validation children need to thrive. I recognize these traits in my own upbringing. My parents' inability to handle their emotions often left me feeling unseen and unsupported. Dr. Gibson's descriptions helped me see that their behavior wasn't about me. It was a reflection of their own limitations. This understanding was a crucial first step in separating my identity from their actions. This chapter taught me that recognizing emotional immaturity is the foundation of healing. By understanding where these behaviors come from, I could begin to approach my past with clarity and compassion. Children of emotionally immature parents often carry the impact of their upbringing into adulthood. Dr. Gibson explains that these effects can include difficulty setting boundaries, fear of conflict, and a tendency to suppress emotions to avoid upsetting others. As I read, I saw how these patterns played out in my life. I often prioritized others' needs over my own, fearing rejection or disapproval. Dr. Gibson's insights helped me see how these tendencies were rooted in my childhood experiences. This realization gave me the tools to start challenging those patterns and reclaiming my voice. This chapter reminded me that the past doesn't have to define the future. By identifying these lingering effects, I could begin to make conscious choices about how I wanted to live and relate to others. Dr. Gibson identifies 4 types of emotionally immature parents: the emotional, driven, passive, and rejecting types. Each type has distinct behaviors and ways of interacting with their children, but all fail to provide consistent emotional support. I recognized elements of the rejecting and passive types in my own parents. Understanding these dynamics helped me make sense of their actions and how they shaped my beliefs about myself and the world. Dr. Gibson's descriptions were validating, helping me see that my struggles weren't a personal failing but a response to my environment. This chapter taught me that naming and understanding these patterns is empowering. By identifying the type of emotional immaturity I experienced, I could start to untangle its effects and move toward healing. One of the central themes of the book is learning to break free from emotional dependence on parents. Dr. Gibson explains that this involves recognizing the limitations of emotionally immature parents and letting go of the need for their validation. I began practicing this by setting boundaries and focusing on my own needs. Dr. Gibson's suggestion to reframe my expectations was liberating. It allowed me to accept my parents for who they were without seeking approval they couldn't provide. This shift gave me a sense of freedom and self-empowerment. This chapter taught me that letting go is not about giving up. It's about reclaiming my emotional independence. By focusing on my own growth, I could build a life that felt authentic and fulfilling. Dr. Gibson emphasizes the importance of building emotional resilience as part of the healing process. This involves developing self-awareness, nurturing self-compassion, and creating a support system of emotionally healthy relationships. I started journaling and meditating to cultivate self-awareness, identifying my triggers, and learning to respond to them with kindness. I also sought out friendships that felt supportive and reciprocal, surrounding myself with people who valued my feelings and perspectives. These practices helped me feel more grounded and capable of handling life's challenges. This chapter reminded me that resilience is a skill that can be developed. By investing in my emotional health, I could create a foundation for lasting well-being. Setting boundaries is a critical part of healing from the effects of emotionally immature parents. Dr. Gibson explains that boundaries protect our emotional well-being and allow us to maintain healthier relationships. I practiced setting boundaries by communicating my needs clearly and calmly. For example, I limited conversations about certain topics that I knew would lead to conflict or stress. While this was challenging at first, it ultimately made interactions with my parents more manageable and less draining. Dr. Gibson's advice to approach boundaries with consistency and firmness was invaluable. This chapter taught me that boundaries are not about creating distance, but about fostering respect. By setting limits, I could create space for healthier, more balanced relationships. Reparenting, Dr. Gibson explains, is the process of providing yourself with the care and validation your parents couldn't offer. This involves meeting your emotional needs, celebrating your accomplishments, and offering yourself unconditional love. I started reparenting myself by practicing positive self-talk and celebrating small victories. When I felt overwhelmed or self-critical, I imagined how I would comfort a child in the same situation and extended that kindness to myself. These practices helped me feel more secure and confident in my ability to navigate life's challenges. This chapter taught me that healing is an ongoing process of self-discovery and self-love. By becoming the parent I needed, I could nurture my growth and create a sense of wholeness. In the final chapter, Dr. Gibson encourages readers to embrace the freedom that comes with healing. She emphasizes that while the effects of emotionally immature parents can be profound, they do not have to define our future. With awareness and effort, we can build lives filled with authenticity, connection, and joy. I began reflecting on the progress I had made and the person I was becoming. By letting go of resentment and embracing acceptance, I felt lighter and more focused on my own journey. Dr. Gibson's message of hope inspired me to keep moving forward, knowing that healing is a lifelong process. This chapter taught me that healing is not about erasing the past, but about reclaiming the present. By embracing my growth, I could create a future that felt true to who I am. Adult children of emotionally immature parents taught me that healing begins with understanding. By recognizing the patterns of my upbringing, setting boundaries, and nurturing my emotional resilience, I could break free from the past and build a life rooted in self-love and authenticity. How can you start your healing journey today? Remember, it's never too late to reclaim your story and create a life filled with connection, clarity, and joy.